Okay, so we're going to want to go to the Unity Hub that we downloaded last time. And again, make sure that your Unity is installed, or this version in particular. Go to Projects, New, Project Name, call it Connect 4. And for location, I'm not sure what the default one is, but I always save it in Documents, and then I created a folder called Unity Games. And then I just store all my Unity games in there. So you can change that if you want to, just to keep it all organized. And then make sure that 3D is selected over here. So when you're done, click Create. So it might take some time for Unity to create the project, but once it does, it'll look like this. So as you can see, we have a bunch of tabs here, like hierarchy. This is where all the stuff in the scene's gonna go. So like right now we have a camera and a light. The scene view is where we can see what's going on in our game. The game view is what the player is actually going to see once we finish the game. The project is where all of our stuff's going to go that is not specifically in the scene yet. So all of the assets we're going to have. Console. So this is for all the messages that we write in code are going to go to this thing. So if you've coded before, you know what a console is. And last is the inspector, which shows all of the components of that object. It's like right now the main camera. Oh wait, scene view. So the main camera right now has like a camera object or camera component, and then an audio listener. And then transform, which just means like the position, rotation, scale of the object. So it's like where it is in 3D space. And then like the light, for example, doesn't have a camera one, and it has a light one instead with all these other components. And this is just how you organize them. So up at the top here, when you see in between two tabs, you can see how there's like two arrows that show up. So that means that you can move the tab here, and you can move like this one here. Any spot you can move it, and you can also drag tabs out and shift them around however you want. And if you drag it out all the way to the side, to the middle area, and then you let go, then it'll become a pop out and be its own tab. If you want to have like a split screen or something, so you can have multiple tabs going on at the same time, like outside of the game view or the Unity window. You can also change the different layouts of it if you don't want to organize everything and move it all around how you want. They have some default ones, so if you click the default button, they have a huge list of stuff here. So you can mess around with these if you want to. The way I like to have my scene view is I go like this, or not just the scene view, but like the entire Unity setup. I like to have this up here. Usually put game down there, put this over here, and then I combine these two. Oh, these need to switch. There you go. So this is how I normally have mine. It's up to you. I'm going to be working on it with this view. You can do it however you want to. So in Unity, everything that is in our scene, so everything right here, right now it's just these two things, is considered a game object. And what that just means is that it has a title here, and then it's in the hierarchy, and then it has a bunch of components. So if we go to this plus here, we can create an empty game object. See, it says game object, and this is the most basic one. It just has a name, some stuff on the top, and then a transform. So I think every game object has to have a transform, and that's the only criteria for it to be a game object. So we're just going to delete this one. So you just click on it and press delete. And right now I'm just going to show you a cube real quick. So click the plus 3D object and then click cube. And then right here we're going to see what default components are. So we have the transform like normal, the cube mesh. So this is the what it sees. So like if I remove it real quick, now the cube is invisible and you can see it right down there. Just Control Z that to add it back. See, and you can see the cube in the game view also. Mesh render is pretty similar to the mesh filter. If you remove that, then it's still invisible. These two kind of go together. But this one is, so the difference is this one is like the mesh around it. So this is like basically from geometry you have like a vertice there. And then this thing is just drawing out all those vertices. Like if I wanted to change this to a sphere, see now it's a sphere. I only change it by pressing this little circle-y thing. I think it's a plus, but it's really small. And then for the mesh renderer, this just is all the materials you can add to it. So if you want to change its color, you can change all these settings. And then the box collider is just if another thing has a collider on it, then there's physics involved, so it won't go through it. But we'll use a box collider so the pieces will stack on top of each other and not just fall to the ground and just go through the board. What you can also do is change the position here. So you can change its position here. That's the Y position and Z position. You can also type in numbers, like if I type in 1, it goes over there. You can also change rotation. And obviously its scale also. You can also move the thing in the scene view, and you can also see it changes its view right there. These options up here are also helpful. I don't particularly use them that much, but you can use them if you want to. So this is to move. This one is rotation. This one is scaling. Oh yeah, and with all these, if you click a particular axis, one of these 3 axes, then it'll just move it in that direction. But if you click the center, then it'll do it on all of them equally. And then this one's mostly for UI stuff because it's 2D. And this one has all 3 of them combined. Oh, and I'll explain how to move around. So if you have a mouse, you kind of need a mouse. It might be a bit difficult if you don't have one, but you click the middle mouse button. This is what the middle mouse button does. It moves around. Here, I'll just go clicking on there. Middle mouse button moves around, and then if you hold down right click, then this is the look around. And with these 2 things, you can basically move around your whole project. You'll get the hang of it later, or as you use the program. And the last thing we're going to do is set up the scene for our project. So I'm just going to delete this cube. That was just for an example. We're going to click on the camera. You can either find it in the scene view and just click on it, like I click on light, or you can go up here and click on it. Also, if you have something selected, if you double click it, it'll automatically move towards it. So these objects are a bit bigger. See this? So then it doesn't really zoom in as much, but then if we have, say, a cube again, real quick, and I double click on it, then it zooms in pretty well. And like if you're super lost and you don't know where the thing is, you can just double click on it again. Okay, so with the camera, I'm going to change this field right here. It says skybox. I'm going to change it to solid color. And this will be the background of our game. You can pick any color you want. I usually don't like the red or the default blue. So I'm going to change it to like a dark green. Don't make it, I guess, too bright because then it's kind of distracting from the player. Try to put like a dark neutral color. You can pick any one you want, and it doesn't actually matter. I'm going to explain the play mode and pause mode. So I'm just going to go add that default cube in again. And don't worry about this, just press, or I'll just show you this. You don't actually have to do it. This is for a demonstration. There we go. So right now, I just have a cube in the scene. So if you click this play button, so right now the screen turns orange and you can see that the cube is now falling. So if I click this pause button, now the scene's paused. And if I go here to stats, this shows you all the stats that's going on. So the pause button freezes the frame, play button just plays the scene, and then you click the play button again to unpause it, or to exit play mode. And then the pause button's just if you want to see what's going on in your scene. Like if a bunch of stuff is moving, like right now this thing's moving, and if you want to see particularly stats about it, like right now I can see its velocity right now, right over here. Also in this stats tab, I don't go in here that much, but if you want to, I really just check like the FPS. Like in this game, it's going to be super high, but in some games, if you have like a really low FPS, then that's kind of a problem. Then you know it needs to be optimized. And then the last button here is the next button. So this step button, it doesn't go exactly frame by frame, but it goes roughly like every 0.1 seconds of a frame. So this is if you want to see something over time, if you want to see like movement or see if the game's working. Because pause doesn't really show you direction stuff, but you can kind of see movement and slow the game down by going like this. The other thing is if something changes in the scene view, like say I just drag this cube up. Oh yeah, and you can move stuff around while you're in the game mode. So say I rotate this thing like that, and then I press play again. See, then the cube now, the rotation is set back to normal. But then if I do it here and press play, then the cube is still rotated, and then when I stop pressing play, it's still rotated again. So when you're in the game mode, any actions you make in this will get reverted back once you exit play mode. So it's kind of helpful if you want to test things. You can just press play. Like what I sometimes do is I press play, then press pause, and then I'll change all the settings just to test it out. And then when I know I unpause it, then nothing bad happens. I'm gonna now delete the cube, and I'm gonna save this scene. So save it. You can either go File, Save, or just do Control S. I think Control S is pretty standard for saving. I'm gonna go through a decent amount of shortcuts in this, but there's some that you should know that are pretty universal. Like with Blender, there's a good amount of shortcuts. I'm gonna try to avoid them as much as I can, but some of them you might just have to learn or just kind of remember just for making the object that I'm making. Now the last thing we're gonna do is set up the scenes for this. So right now, go to scenes. It'll probably say something else there, but what you're gonna want to do to change it is you have it selected, and then you either click on where it says it. I just clicked, and then it changes it. Or you can also right click, and then there should be rename here, and then just type in game. You can also do that for renaming anything if you just select it and then click it again after it's selected. It's not a double click, it's just like after it's selected you click it to rename stuff. Okay, so we have our scenes. We're gonna also add a few other folders just to set up. So this one is gonna be called prefabs. You don't actually have to know what these are, just add them in, and then over time I'll explain it after we add all of them. And most of these are gonna be empty for now. So materials. And then the last one is scripts. Okay, so scenes view. For our game, we're only gonna have one scene, but the easiest way to think about scenes is one in a movie, like movie scenes. It's where it'll change like a different setting. Scenes are also can be like where you put levels. Like if you have level 1, that'll be a scene. Level 2 will be a scene. But for our thing, it's all gonna be in one scene. It's kind of just up to you and what project you want to do. Sometimes if you have a menu system, you might have like a main menu scene and then like a game scene and like a score screen, something like that. Materials, so we're just going to be doing basic materials where it's just going to have a color. We're not going to be doing anything too fancy, but this is where you can put like textures on the stuff, or you can get really creative, but again, we're just going to be doing basic colors and materials that we're going to be attaching to our game objects. Prefabs is where anything that's up here, say we have like a setting that we really like, say we're making one of the pieces, and then we're just like, oh, that piece is exactly what we want, and we want to like put it into the code so we can duplicate it and stuff. So you would drag and drop it into here, and then this is going to have a list of all the game objects that we have and that we're going to use. Also, if you're using multiple scenes, so say like right here, say this camera I want in every single scene, but I mean for us it doesn't actually apply because we're only using one scene, but say I wanted this camera settings in every scene, like I wanted this color exactly perfect and I didn't want to guess and change it every time I make a new scene. If you dragged it down here, so don't do this, but this is just for example. Now it adds it in here, and now if I created a new scene, I could just drag and drop it back into it, and then it keeps all the settings for it, which is pretty handy. Now let's see if I just Control Z. There you go. And then the scripts folder, that's just where all of our scripts are and our code's gonna go. We're only gonna be writing 2 scripts, and one of them's gonna be pretty small, and then the other one's gonna have like all the game logic in it. And then I just remembered another folder we have to add. We have to add the models. So this is where all of our Blender 3D models are just gonna go. In the next video, I'm gonna go over all the stuff you need to know in Blender, and then we're also gonna model each of the things.